Hello gamers, Totem God here, and we are doing an update for the Arc Totem Hierophant, which is the Path of Exile patch 3.24 League Start build that I did, and things are going pretty well. So I think we'll basically show the character stats. So we're level 95, we could be higher, but we stopped to make a lot of currency, essentially, and stuff like that. And we're kind of getting our atlas all set up and doing a little bit of kind of theory crafting on some things I wanted to potentially change and stuff like that, and setting up, kind of like buying a lot of stuff and just setting up a lot of stuff on PoE trade, right, in order to get stuff that we need for the future and other builds and stuff like that. So it hasn't really been like a full-on committed to leveling process, more kind of making currency, getting our atlas set up and stuff like that. Going through the gear really quick, I'm going to just go through everything and talk about the original price and the upgraded price. The original price is going to be what I paid for originally, and the upgraded price is going to be like a better version of it, maybe, that I upgraded to. So this was like 2 chaos initially, and then I upgraded to this version for, it was 5 chaos, so super cheap. This is literally 1 alchemy both times, so yeah, just super cheap. Another 1 alch item, maybe potentially 1 chaos, I forget. But yeah, you can get a bad version of this for 1 alch. This is the most expensive item by far. It was 45C, so still not even really that bad. But yeah, it's pretty good. And then this was, I believe this version was 4C or 3C, but I think my first one was 2C. All you really want is the all attributes and like a decent mana regen roll, just not something in the bin. And then if you really need to, you can Blessed the Implicit. These were 2C even from the start, been using them the whole time. This was like 1C, I believe, like literally 1 or 2C. So everything is like dirt cheap, and then except for Anathema. And the belt is the belt was the one thing that we got lucky on, because we found it. Now granted, I had the currency to buy it. At the time, I just didn't really think it was necessary. I actually found it, kept it because I knew I was going to use it, and didn't use it for a bit. And I'll kind of talk about that in a sec here. So like I said, I wanted to swap when I had what I felt like were good jewels, and I didn't really have super good jewels for a while. The reason why you swap to this belt is to basically use Determination. Before this, like, I was running a belt that I found. It was like a tri-res, nothing insane, just like kind of low tri-res, like 80 life heavy belt, so with a strength implicit. You kind of want to either do a heavy belt or leather belt for the extra HP, or if you get a heavy belt, you can remove one of these, most likely, so it saves you a point. And so that's how I was running for a bit. And then I got good jewels, and then which I'll talk about in a second, and I swapped to this. Now, I personally felt Wrath was fine up until about, like, deep red maps, like literally tier 16, like kind of like 14 to 16. Now, like in low reds, Wrath was still very fine. I would say even in tier 16, Wrath is fine for the most part. It's really just if you're doing content like Ultimatum, I think. Like my tree, I have a weird tree. I would not recommend you copy this. I just do content that I like because I make enough currency anyway. Because I'm just like, I played the game for a while. I kind of know what the deal is, right? And how to make currency in the game. So this is not like optimized for currency maxing or anything. I just, again, play what I want. But I kind of like Ultimatum, so I'm doing Ultimatum. And if you're doing Ultimatum, you kind of want the armor, in tier 16 at least. If you're not doing tier 16, it doesn't really matter. But if you're doing tier 16, you want the armor. And it's mostly because when you're in like tier 14 to 16 and you're doing altar mods, and you have like let's say you're running Defiled Cathedral, right? So you want to get the quantity from the altar when possible. And sometimes that means taking the thing that goes around you, and when things get inside there, it does, high damages fizz or whatever. Now, that's kind of a problem when you're in Ultimatum, because you can off-screen a lot of stuff normally, but in an Ultimatum, stuff is like spawning on top of you, right? It's like violating your space constantly because you're running around the little room. Defiled Cathedral is also not like probably the best map to have an easy time to run Ultimatum in. It's not necessarily super hard. There's worse maps, obviously, but it's not the best map. So you're in close proximity, you're in close quarters, and having the determination helps, because I believe how it works is anything that's added as extra is based off the original hit damage, which means that if you lower like the original fizz hit, the subsequent elemental conversion like is also lowered proportionally. So, for that reason, if you're doing Ultimatum, you should probably have determination. Now, arguably, depending on other type of content you're doing, it could be more worth it to have Wrath. Like Harvest, for example, is a great one where you get to preset a lot of stuff, and just having more damage doing Harvest actually makes it safer. Harvest is really safe anyway, because if you just keep moving, you should like basically never die. But yeah, it really depends on the league content you're trying to do, right? So that was just something that I made as a personal choice for me. But if you're not doing Ultimatum, you can skimp out on determination for a lot longer, in my personal opinion. Although you'll still be safer with it, obviously. And I think, eventually, once you upgrade your staff, you really don't need Wrath for most content in the game. If I was doing bosses, I just did a Cirrus, for example, to get my last, or not, to get one of the last favored map slots, and I just swapped to Wrath for that. So, yeah, it just depends on what you're doing as well. You can swap auras out based on the boss. If you're doing Shaper or something like that, you probably don't need determination. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so I'm going to get into the jewels here. So this I actually just purchased for 1 divine. And the belt, if I didn't find it, it would be approximately 1 divine. That's the most expensive thing, except aside from obviously the 6-link soul elemental. We're on a 5-link though until 93 or something. We kind of just recently upgraded. So, yeah, you don't need to be on a 6-link. Damage increase is nice, though. And, yeah, this is a divine, probably, or a little bit more. And you don't need to use a 91, though. I just use this because I found it. If you couldn't afford it, you could use, a 70 or an 80 even. It'd be a little bit worse, but it'd be fine. Now, this jewel is really interesting, and I think this is something you guys want to look out for. So the chance to avoid being stunned, right? Normally the issue with this is that, it goes up to 30, and even if you get a max roll and you double it, okay, that means you only have 60%, but you're not going to double it, so it's probably going to be 57, because the belt isn't, you're not going to have 100% Stygian bias. So let's assume 57%, 55 to 57% chance to avoid being stunned from one of these jewels in your belt. Now, that's pretty generous even. So, but let's say it's more 50. Okay. Now, that means that even if you get a 30% somewhere else on the actual tree, you still have a 20% chance left over to be stunned. Now, as it turns out, while just doing general mapping and playing non-hardcore, that's not really a problem. Because you're not really going to die to, getting stunned in that one moment very much at all. It's more, you pretty much die to chain stun in this game. So as long as you have enough stun mitigation, even getting 30% jewel that's not in the belt helps a ton in terms of stuns. It's not anywhere near as good as 80% or 100%, but it still helps a lot. So basically anything you can get on the avoid to be stunned front is good, I would say. And you can also round out that, if you have 60% from the 1 jewel in the belt and the Darkness Enthroned, then you have another one or something like that, like this. Then you can also get it on Flask, while Flask is up. You can get mods there, instead of the block and stun recovery or whatever. So keep an eye out for that. and potentially look into getting that if you can't get capped in other ways. That's an easy way to kind of like supplement the normal avoid being stunned that you would get from the jewel. But the reason why I want to point out this jewel being so good is because I forgot you can actually get that on the jewel implicit, and that's huge because basically it allows us to get, like, potentially, like, you could actually cap from one jewel. You know, if you had a strong enough setup, right? If it was like 25 and 30% here, that would basically cap you from one jewel. Not the case here, but basically anything else will cap you after that. Like this is 47% chance, right, baseline, and then it's 91%, so it goes to like 43. So you're basically getting 90% stun, reduced chance to be stunned just from the one jewel here, which is insane. You also still have the armor on it in this case, in life. And then, you know, you just finish it off with any jewel in any other slot. And it's really nice because it just gives you a lot of flexibility for your other jewel slots. You could also, obviously, just get a chance to avoid being stunned and armor on both of these. But the problem is like, you really want the percent armor on both of these jewels, right? Because these are the ones that are getting essentially or effectively doubled. So obviously you don't want to have one of these missing armor because it's a huge amount of armor that you're missing, right? So that means that if I had to pick one, I'd probably rather have the armor and just not be fully stun capped. But it's really nice when you can do something like this because now the other one you're not forced to have, you're not forced to have stun or whatever, right? Like you're not forced to have the stun on it, so you can use you have a lot more flexibility here. Right now I have a chance to be frozen, but you can do like basically anything. More damage, a chance to avoid ailments, etc., right? So yeah, a lot of flexibility here. Yes, that's the... Okay, this guy is... I don't know, that's not supposed to be public, but I'll fix that after. So that's basically the belt setup. And like I said, the belt itself, probably 1 divine, a little change. This thing was 1 divine. This one was actually kind of cheap. I think it was like 10 chaos. So the jewels aren't super expensive. I mean, it depends. If people really know what they're selling, sometimes they can get a lot for them. But for the most part, the jewels are not really that bad. And like I said, the idea is that this build is so dirt cheap, right? That everything else here you can get super easily except the anathema. So you focus all your currency into the anathema at first is the most important thing, and then into the darkness and thrones and the jewels afterwards, and you're golden. Okay. Now, in terms of other stuff here. So, what else do we want to talk about? Let's go over the Pantheon powers really quick. So, you want to get all these. These are all really good. They're like 5 chaos each, basically. So, it's like 20 chaos to get all of them, not counting the maps. Obviously, avoid being chained is kind of like the best thing. But the 10% to avoid projectiles is super underrated, as well as the Physmit. Elemental damage is also really solid. And then obviously this is to cap the effect of curses. You can stay on this for a while. Use like this in conjunction with 1 Kikazaru or something like that. That's absolutely fine. That's what I did. These are not bad nodes at all. It's just that like the problem is that if you're going to use a Kikazaru at all, right? There's really nothing better to use quality on the Kikazaru than the caster mod, right? So it's like you could use the resist one, you could use a mana one, a fertile one, but that's super expensive and you're not really gaining anything. You could use an attribute one, but 15 attributes isn't really strong enough. You're not going to get a ton of attributes out of it, right? You could use a life one to buff up the life per second, but it's not a super big increase, right? That's the whole problem is using any other quality on a different stat on this ring is just not really worth it. So naturally, you're gonna quality it anyway because it's super cheap too, inevitably, right? I think it was like 7 chaos to quality this. It was like 0.5 per imbued, and you don't even need to get it all the way to 20, right? And then naturally, the 30% here just fits so perfectly with it. So yeah, I don't really know. Like, the main issue with this is at that point, after that, you're basically just taking this for the chaos res, right? And you could do that if you wanted. I mean, it is like a fairly easy way to access chaos res. The thing is like, I would say this is better, right? But unfortunately, it's 1 extra point going that way. So it is like 4 points instead of the other things. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. This is actually an interesting option though, because I really don't like being poisoned and bled. So I may actually look into this in the future, depending on what I want to do. So we'll keep an eye out on this. But I'll make another update video once we change some more things around and kind of get some more things finalized. So yeah, that's the god powers, and then we'll go into the tree. And basically, the tree is like very similar. We just don't take these nodes yet. I'm not sure what I want to do here, and we still have Alira. Alira is good up until like very, very late game, and the reason is because one of the arguments that people often make about not taking Alira in the late game, right, is like, well, you know, you can just spec into a jewel for 2 points from most places, and you can get a jewel that's like better than Alira. Now the problem with that in this build is that you're naturally taking all the available close jewel sockets, right? So this is going to be like taken anyway soon, which means that, you know, you're not really gaining that from Alira because you would have to put 3 points in to get to the next jewel socket, or like 3 points in to get the nimbleness, or 3 points in to get to prodigal perfection, or 3 points to get here. Like basically anything you're gonna do, like you could put 2 points in here, but then you want to put the 3rd point for the armor applies to chaos damage taken, right? So anything you do, basically you can go here as well. 1, 2, 3. This is another really good node. So there's tons of like other 3-pointers that you can go, but in almost every case or scenario, you can even go here if you want the recouped damage as life, right? Yeah, but basically anything you do is going to require 3 points, is kind of the long and short of it. So that is basically kind of the problem with going off of Alira, because first of all, you have to have a really solid jewel because you're giving up 15 all res and then 20 crit multi, right? And then 5 mana regen. It's good for the build. Like I'm not gonna say that it's needed or super significant, but it's not bad for the build. So just something to keep in mind there. You know, you don't need to rush off of it, essentially. And basically, there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, I ended up taking these curse nodes instead for now. The damage is like very comparable to like as if you just run straight up here, and obviously they also help your enfeeble as well. And the other main thing I want to talk about, and I'll talk about it in relation to curse nodes because it's very similar, is Balance of Terror. So I think you should absolutely have this in the build. I didn't have it in it originally, but these are pretty cheap, honestly. You can get them with like any combination of things. I think take no damage from critical strikes is just insane, and the lightning explode. I think this is the best pairing by far for this build. You can get the one where it's like you gain crit multi if you cast Enfeeble. That's fine. But I just like the cannot be crit. Unless you would take the monsters always crit ultimatum meta mod, super easy. And it's like not even a problem. Right? So I really like that. It's just, I think it's way more valuable than a little bit of extra crit multi, even though the crit multi is really nice, obviously. So just something to keep in mind there. And also the 15 all res is just completely goated, obviously, on these, right? The 10 to 15, even if you get a bad rolled one, it's 10 to 15. And the nice thing about the the take no damage from critical strikes, you don't have to get a good roll. If you get like the other one, like it's a 30 to 40% range, and both of those are good. But if you get like a bin one, it feels kind of bad. So yeah, just I would include a balance of terror, which means you do lose one. You lose one jewel, but it's not the end of the world. It's obviously to be crit immune for one jewel, get 15 all res, and then get lightning exposure is yeah, that's just, it's super goated. So can't really argue with that. And yeah, that is basically all that stuff. Now in terms of the Atlas, basically have everything, just not, we didn't do Cortex, so we didn't do the Fear. I don't think I'm going to do those on this build. I mean, now that you get the invitations anyway, like, I may do them, potentially. Oh, sorry, I meant, yeah, for the Fear, this is the only invitation. But, like, if I end up doing some of these bosses, then I'll potentially attempt it on this, but I just think I'm going to make a Trapper or something, or maybe I'll just get, like, I think you just get this for 50C or something. So if I end up playing this build for a while, I'll probably just buy a carry. And if I don't, then I'll probably just do it on, you know, I'll just make a Ice Spear Totem build or a Trapper. I think you, like I said, I'm pretty sure you could do it on this if you give it enough investment. I don't think it's, like, the best build to do it on for obvious reasons, right? But yeah, everything else is pretty much good. We just need to get a couple more of the unique maps and stuff. And then, what are we doing here? There's one other thing I wanted to show you guys. Oh, we don't have any corruptions yet. You don't even have a 20 arc or whatever. So yeah, could get more damage there. Definitely could get more damage in corruptions. We got really unlucky with Alvas so far, so it's whatever. The changes that they're making, by the way, to the League mechanic, it seems like it's going to be really easy to craft some ridiculous stuff, based on what I've read at least. I already have a really good craft going as of now in my graveyard, so I will kind of like update you guys on that. I'll probably actually do a video showing you the actual craft so you can all see what we get together. And I think that, like, how I'm basically playing this league is, like, I'm just using the graveyard to solo self-out craft my staff, basically. So I'm just crafting, like, a replacement staff to this in the graveyard. And yeah, like, I'm pretty sure anything I get is going to be better than this, because this is not, like, a really good staff, right? It's like a 2 chaos staff. So yeah. I'm anticipating a better result than this, and it should be pretty good, because now that you can select the base type as well, that is just insane. Yeah. And they're making a lot of the modifier consolidation much easier. In fact, I may, if I go into the tree, like, you can see the tree, if they fix the league mechanic and it becomes good, I may actually just go into here and invest into this, because we're not too far away. So I have some ideas about how I can do that. It shouldn't really be that hard. So yeah, that is basically the build. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, which is, just like how much we made, right? Because, you know, I said this was a good build to farm currency on, right? So is that true? Well, you can be the judge. I mean, we've got quite a bit of currency here, and this is just what's left over, right? Like, I want to stress that. So obviously none of our value in here, like, this is probably like 3 divines in total that we have into the belt. This was like half a divine at the time of purchasing, or like a divine at the time of purchasing. This was 3 divines. We have another one of these, by the way. We have a void battery. Just seen that guy PM me for it, but I'm saving it for a different build. We have a ton of stuff I just haven't sold yet, because it's going to scale better, obviously. So, like, we have a mirror shard, enlightened, Power level 4 gem. We have 2 of these. I'm not sure if I'm going to run them. I think I'm going to sell them first, and then I'm just going to get the completions later, because I don't really need the Atlas points. So they'll just be more efficient currency-wise. We have a bunch of stuff we haven't sold, like tons of logbooks. They're not even all in here, because some of them are still spread out. We have a ton of heist contracts that we have not sold. Yeah, we have a ton of the new league things that we can either sell or get more currency from. So there's I have not consolidated everything, like these things I'm talking about, right? I have not sold any scarabs yet, or really even used scarabs. There's my fragments tab. Yeah, we're tons of scarabs, as you can see. Splinters. So we just haven't even really bothered with any of this stuff yet. You know what I mean? And we have more than enough currency. So I think that this is a pretty decent farming build for sure. And yeah. It's definitely the other thing too is the ratio in terms of what you make from it versus what you have to invest in it to do the making is... I don't think I've even seen another build like that. I don't know. It's so cheap and you get so much from it essentially. So that is basically everything. Yeah, I'm gonna keep making update videos as we change things. I just don't want to I might do daily ones, but I don't know how much the build is gonna change day to day, so I don't want to waste you guys' time. But that's basically the build for now, and I'll keep you guys updated, and we're obviously going to do more builds on the channel, so keep an eye out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and see you guys later.